Jamie Will.
Yes, sir.
We're just about on. I'm waiting for. Hey, Diane.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
You'll have to enable our video.
Okay. Jamie, how can I do that?
I don't know anything about the presentation mode they're in.
Okay. I've unmuted you guys, and
Miss Rebecca says you have to make us panelists.
I did. I just made y'all panelists. So we may have to reboot and re-out. You have to make them. I see it. I see it. All right. I've got you guys as panelists. Wait a minute. Let me look. Maria's on here. Maybe Maria can go in and fix that. I got you guys as panelists. I mean, she may have to do the video. Did you say that the other thing went over?
It was just right at time, man. It was powerful. It was good.
No, it was. Maria's the host. She's the one that has to give you guys the sound. She's the one that's got to give you the video.
I am not the host, y'all. I just signed in.
It's got you as the host.
I'm not the host, so unassign me.
Okay. It's got you. You
It
have
does
to
have
assign,
you as the host.
You have to assign. I don't know how it had you as the host. You have to put me as the host, Maria. Then I can fix theirs.
That is not me.
Well, it's got you hosting us right now. We love you. You can host us. We don't mind. We worked with you for years. I think we've got about we got 60 people on here. You can host us if that's what you want. Can you go ahead and can you sign me as the host? Maria?
Yep, working on it. Why won't it move? Okay, well, it won't undo me.
Okay, you may have to log out and then log back in.
You want me and Jamie to try that?
Yes. Yes, y'all log out and log back in, and then I'll add it.
Okay.
I am now the host.
Okay.
All right, let me see. Now, let me give you name. Cancel. I'm going to get you on here as a panelist. Make host chat, allowed to record. For some reason, it's not letting me add you guys video.
If your three dots up like in our profile picture to the right of mute, if you click on that, does it give you options?
I'm about to fix it now. All right, there we go. It should allow you guys to show your face now.
Nope.
Well, I'll be. Well, it looks like we're going to have to move on through it, guys. Are you ready?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
All right, I have no idea why it's not doing that. If anybody has any advice for me, Rebecca, can you hear me? We cannot get visuals on Jamie or Will. I have made both of them panelists, and we cannot get their picture to show. You guys can see me?
Yes.
I'm waiting to hear back from someone. We got 67 in. I'm going to give it about 1 more minute, and we will try. Okay, I'll get Rebecca on here. Hi, Cynthia. Hey, Rebecca, I just added you as a panelist.
Okay, thanks. Let me work on this for you, okay?
Okay. It's a great platform.
Marie's texting me right now, so we're on it. It may take just a second. If you want to start, Monty, maybe if you
Okay. I'll go ahead and start and just
I'll
kind of
keep
start this.
working on it.
Okay, no problem. So first, I want to say thank you to everybody that logged in to hear us chat today. I want to give a special shout out before we even go into this presentation to my wonderful friend, Ellen Abbott. There was a powerful tribute to Ellen today. Ellen and I have worked together since well before I worked in state government. And always, especially now, she's always going to be in my memory. I met Ellen during the Obama administration at a White House gathering to talk about second chance and reentry. And she was with some of her colleagues, and I met her, and then she was a force to be reckoned with. I told her later in life that I was actually scared of her, and because she was so demonstrative and powerful when she spoke, and when she wanted to get something done, she got it done. So any of the people on here that know her, that knew her, that knows her spirit and her personality knew that when Ellen drove forward, and she got stuff done. She's going to be greatly missed. She's always in my heart. And I can only pray that I have the ability to work as hard and as diligently and to do the things, or even walk in her footsteps and do the things that she's done. I have had, again, with the recovery courts, watching the court system grow. I'm a fan of the recovery court system. I think that a successful recovery court in our community shows two things. One, it shows that our court system is really addressing criminogenic factors and trying to help people reestablish themselves. And two, it shows that the community is willing to support a second chance, second go at it. I've visited just about every recovery court or worked in some form or capacity with them, every recovery court administrator, or in some time frame over the course of the years I've worked for the state. And I've got nothing but kudos and thanks to you all for the hard work that you do. Working with the criminal justice population is unique, especially when recovery court, sometimes inside of an institutional setting, people that are not in recovery court don't always say the best things about us because they don't understand or don't respect the structure that it takes and the engagement that it takes for a person to acquiesce through and make it out and to become successful while they engage in treatment. So with that, I'm going to switch to a PowerPoint and share and give kind of a baseline of what we do in our faith-based initiatives. And I'm going to hand the mantle to my friend Jamie Harper and also Will Taylor. Both of them work in the Office of Faith-Based Initiatives with the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. And we're just excited again to be with you guys. We're having a little bit of technical difficulty right now.
And Monty, I apologize. If you could make me the co-host, I know how to fix the issue.
Okay. Rebecca's going to fix it. It says I have to make you the host, not co-host. So you've got to take over.
That's fine. Either way, I'm here to help. Okay, guys, try it now.
We got Will. Jamie, I see you. We had. I actually like that picture of Will. That's one of my favorite pictures of Will.
There we go.
We're in. All right, Rebecca, we're good?
If you're good, do you need anything?
No, ma'am, I'm going to go ahead and switch to the PowerPoint and go ahead and go. Guys, can you see it? Okay, my name is Monty Burks. For those of you who don't know me, I'm going to put this picture up here and I'm going to make a joke at myself. During COVID, my hair changed colors. My hair no longer actually is that wonderful dark color there. It's more of a Santa Claus salt and pepper gray. I'm I've had a wonderful time during COVID. I grew a gray beard and gray hair, and it's actually a blessing to do that. With age comes wisdom. And wisdom told me not to let my beard grow out anymore because young kids called me Santa Claus. So I cut it back down. Will, you look great, and Jamie, you look great. I couldn't hang, man. But I'm the director of faith-based initiatives for the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. I'm also a person that's in long-term recovery from substance abuse and a mental health diagnosis. And I always am open to share my story, to be vulnerable. Now, I'm a successful product of criminal justice intervention coupled with treatment, coupled with prevention, coupled with recovery, in a circle, a behavioral health care continuum circle of what the system looks like when it works. And the system does work. It's up to us as practitioners to make sure that we engage with the systems that we work in. Sometimes situations are different, angles are different, regions are different, divisions are different. But we know as a team, as a fully functioning team, there's 78 people on this Zoom right now. We know now that we can work, whether there's a pandemic, whether there's weather, whether we don't have people that are in position strategically. We know that we can reach across the state, reach across the counties, reach across our territories, and really get stuff done. And I'm a product of that as a person in long-term recovery. March 3rd, I celebrated 21 years free from the bondage that almost destroyed me and my family. I'm excited to tell you about it because I'm alive. I'm alive to be able to present with you. I'm alive to be able to chat with you. I'm allowed to be able to share with you. Also, to anyone that's listening, that's a person that has lived experience. Remember, as you grow into your lived experience, as you start to mature and matriculate, if you're not afraid to tell your story, tell it. A lot of people like to have a narrative over people like us, people like you and me. But we want to tell our own story, articulate it on our own terms, and let people know that there is success on the other side, that prevention works, that treatment works, that recovery works, and that criminal justice intervention can work if there's two engaging parties. I'm thankful again to be able to present with the recovery court team just a little bit about my background. I've been a criminal justice professor for the last 12 years. Some of the people who work in some of the recovery courts were actually some of my students years back. And I think it's pretty cool. The last recovery court conference, I had a couple of my students that came up, and it was awesome to get a hug from them, to see them matriculate and to go through and see that there are other quasi-criminal justice functions and how our court system works completely different than a lot of other criminal justice entities. I'm also active in support meetings out in the community. So, we just don't talk the talk, we walk the walk. Part of the recovery process and the recovery journey is to stay engaged with the community and to stay engaged in any form of capacity that we can. The hobbies that I share with a lot of people that do this, that are in this world, kickboxing, martial arts, stuff like that. Hopefully post-COVID, I'm going to enjoy some swimming. I've heard that swimming is awesome. I was in an online meeting the other night, and some people talked about swimming as one of their paths to freedom from addiction. So this is some of the wonderful things that I'd love to explore, because I like to expand my mind, because I know that my path to recovery it doesn't have to be somebody else's. I'm just but an example of an idea of what it looks like at the end, and anybody else can choose whatever path they choose to get there. So just a little historical overview of the initiative and where it is now. 7 years ago, then Deputy Commissioner Marie Williams, she had an idea with the former Commissioner Doug Varney that what an opportunity that it would be to leverage the faith community to become part of the continuum of care. When I say continuum of care, it's criminal justice, prevention, treatment, recovery, criminal justice, the whole behavioral health care continuum. But she reached out to me. I was one of the original Lifeline cohort, and she had heard me speak about my past and my struggles and how I had overcome adversity through hard work, through prayer and hard work. And I was always open about my story. And listen, I'm a man of faith. If you don't have a faith tradition, or we have a different faith tradition, that does not isolate us from each other. And it does not separate us. And actually, I think that pulls us together because we understand and we believe in something greater than ourselves. And we also humanity, knowing that we can connect with people that are completely different with us to do the same work, and that's to save people's lives. But she was very keen on utilizing lived experience and working with communities. And I was recruited through some various means to work with the department on a faith-based initiative. We were in the middle of right in the middle of the rise in the opioid epidemic, and we started to realize that an agency, a court, a building or a structure is not necessarily going to stop anything, but people, volunteers, advocates in the community that understand the community, that are culturally competent to the community, they can be the change agents in a community. And what that meant was looking at our largest, most diverse, robust group demographic in the state of Tennessee, which is our faith community, and to pull our faith community into the fold and to bring them into the conversation around addiction and mental health. Now, again, when I talk about the faith community, I talk about all faiths, all traditions, and we're not just talking about houses of worship. We're talking about faith-based providers. We're talking about volunteers. We're talking about individual lay people becoming certified peer recovery specialists and engaging with people on the ground. We're talking about school teachers that attend congregational or religious and or faith services that can take some of the work from their traditional 9-to-5 into the faith community, so we can have education around opioid use, opioid misuse, drug addiction, alcoholism, and other things that need to be talked about in our community. A vision of our faith-based initiative was to partner and leverage Tennessee's faith-based community to increase outreach, build recovery pathways, and provide an educated, welcoming, and supportive place for individuals struggling with substance use or issues, so we may help them find help on their pathway to recovery. So what does that look like, and what does it mean? What that looks like is the more people that people see that have survived, that have overcome, that are in recovery, the more likely it is that person may reach out to you, or you become a walking, visible library of resources to other people who need help. We have to be honest when we make assessments or when we talk about our communities, but 3 out of 4 Tennesseans are touched by addiction. It doesn't mean 3 out of 4 Tennesseans use drugs and alcohol. It just simply means that 3 out of 4 people know somebody that needs help. And in my personal and honest opinion, 4 out of 4 people know somebody that could use some type of help. So utilizing existing resources and partnerships, including Recovery Court, we set out across the state with this vision to reimagine the conversations around addiction, to increase outreach so we can be of benefit in different ways to different communities. The mission was to build a robust faith-based initiative so we could educate over 11,500 to closer to 12,000 faith and religious institutions around the state, around the brain science of addiction, and resources available to help certify each one of our faith communities to be a certified recovery congregation. So Tennesseans that are struggling with addiction can find sanctuary within the faith community as a welcoming place to pursue recovery. And again, when we talk about our faith communities getting involved in the fray, think about this. There are not a lot of things that are present in every county in this state. We have 95 counties. In every one of our counties, we have multiple houses of faith. We also have a sheriff's department. We also have a court system. We also have a health department. We're trying to put all of these institutions in one pot so we can all synergize and work together to be of benefit to each other. How can faith communities be of benefit to Recovery Court through partnerships? My colleagues, Jamie Harper and Will Taylor, are going to go in depth and explain the trainings that we provide for our faith communities so we can get them ready to have the conversation with you as a recovery court administrator. So one of the things we did in the early parts of this faith-based initiative is, one, we took strategic steps to be able to engage with the faith community so we could better serve, not just serve people that suffer from addiction, but also serve our faith community. Again, we have close to 12,000 institutions of faith. We have over 3.7 million people that attend congregational services. That's a whole lot of people that could really be built into allies that can work and serve in their communities. The outreach component of a faith-based initiative is unique because a lot of people assume that when you talk about a faith-based initiative, it is only for that faith community and the inside four walls of that institution. In actuality, some congregations are only going to provide inreach, and that's fair enough. That's at least inreach to a section of the community. But outreach is the ultimate goal. When congregations provide outreach, we've watched continuously as communities have changed. We have watched continuously as people have left the court system, connected to different diverse faith communities. Even if the person doesn't have a faith tradition, every community still stands to do better when we have more access to AA meetings, NA meetings, Celebrate Recovery meetings, all recovery meetings, and I go MARA, Medicated Assisted Recovery Anonymous, all of these partnered with our houses of faith, create more access points to get people into services. This is the concept of our faith-based initiative. When we talked about that continuum of care, we talked about prevention, treatment, recovery, criminal justice, prevention, treatment, recovery. The faith community falls inside of every single one of those gaps across that continuum. That means that the faith community can ride with a person from the time they're arrested to the time they get out and as they walk through their recovery walk. And if for nothing else, sometimes the faith community and the person doesn't match, people still need ancillary adjunct resources in their communities. Food, clothes, a hug, a Narcan training, a QPR training, something in the community to keep people vibing. Did you know that when you empower people that are in recovery, that they can become the biggest, best recovery advocate to the community they serve? Will and Jamie and all three of us have a different path to freedom. Each one of us can talk to 3 different communities about the same exact issue and reach 30 other people that each one of us never reached. That's because all of us experienced it different. And because it didn't happen to me this way doesn't mean it didn't happen to them this way. It just simply means that that's 3 more ways that we can connect 3 more people to the continuum of care, to the recovery process. So 1, assess needs. We gathered and assessed data to realize the significance and the importance of all of our faith communities. Once we did, we built the capacity. We went door to door, Pat and Turner, all 3 of us, and with the other Lifeliners. I know a few of you guys were on here, Brandon, Diane, I saw you guys. I didn't see everybody else because it populated really quick. But with the help of our Lifeliners across the state, we Pat and Turner, and for you that don't know what Pat and Turner means, that's your feet. We went door to door, county to county, looking for our faith-based champions that wanted to be involved in the conversations around addiction and mental health. In building this capacity, we found lifelong friends and allies in this fight, in this conversation. And also those allies, we became a separate resource to them, which the guys are going to talk about in a minute. We developed a plan so we could prioritize the needs that we talked about in step 1. We wanted to understand how we could build this capacity into a machine and make this machine take off and ride. Tennessee is considered the gold standard in faith-based community engagement. This comes from not just me telling you this. Of course, I'm going to tell you that because I think we're the gold standard at everything. We're the volunteer state and we're special. But coming from other states around the country who look to us for leadership and mentorship on how to engage with faith communities, how our recovery court systems work, how our prevention coalitions work, and lastly, how our faith communities and our recovery community have become a combined total apparatus that is out there swinging at the fences. 4, implement strategic plans. That's where our Project Lifeliners and our faith-based coordinators are going to explain. And then it's systematic collection of data. We collect the data to see how many congregations we have, the number of people that we've referred to treatment. We provided trainings, and the guys are going to cover some of that data. With that being said, again, I'm thankful to be able to present to you and to have my team and my colleagues present. We're going to present a piece of what covers the whole state. These guys are both in Middle Tennessee with me, but they're going to talk about what goes on as far west as Memphis and as far east as Johnson City. Some of our coordinators on here, drop comments and information in the chat box. We would love to connect you with some of our new hybrid Lifeline coordinators if you don't have a coordinator, or one of our existing Lifeline coordinators and our faith-based coordinators. Our job today is to explain the faith-based initiative and to partner with you as recovery court administrators, facilitators, volunteers, and advocates. And how can we do that? One is we have to have conversations. Now, I want us to leave this with this. It's easy for us to give you contact information of a faith-based institution, but it's better for both communities if we introduce you to faith communities and we build a partnership and a collective together. Because two agencies that don't really know what each other does and don't have a relationship with each other, they're going to butt heads. But when everybody knows what everybody does and we get on an equal playing field, then we can utilize the body for the pieces that do what they do. The hand can grab and the foot can kick. And this is the concept of our faith-based initiative. Is we have 3 people congregations that do heavy lifting. We have 30,000 member congregations that do a different type of heavy lifting. It doesn't mean either one of them are insignificant or not important. It simply means that we need to know, 1, what they do and how to address them, and 2, how we can also be of resource to them. Because each person has someone who may need help, or who may have a hurt, habit, hang up, or slip up that needs some direction or needs a resource. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my awesome friend, Jamie Harper, and let him talk about what our faith-based coordinators do.
Hey, I am Jamie Harper. I'm the faith-based community coordinator from Middle Tennessee. Getting in and talking about the involvement of individuals in the criminal justice system, involvement of the faith-based community with those individuals who are involved with the criminal justice system. How does that work? Well, as Monty said just a few minutes ago, there is a continuum of care, and the faith community needs to be a big part of this. It already is a big part of this. It's just what I hear a lot of times is, how can we be of better service? Coming from the background that I came from, I grew up in a house that was full of faith. And that didn't save me from the world. Through all of this process, what I ended up getting involved in was not just the criminal justice system, but several criminal justice systems. A lot of it had to do with rural counties. Not all of them, but a lot of it had to do with rural counties who looked at me like, you need to be under the jail. Well, I'm thankful that this mentality is beginning to change. I needed help, and nobody could realize it. I wonder sometimes if I could even realize it myself, or if I would have been given an opportunity, would I have taken it? I can look back on there and I could say yes, or I could say no. It doesn't really matter, because that opportunity was never presented to me. But what we see now is we have opportunities for individuals to get help, to receive the treatment that they need in order to be able to be in recovery successfully. And what a awesome blessing that is. So how can the faith community combine with this, becoming a part of the continuum of care? What we can see is, as Monty said just a few minutes ago, they can come in at any point in period of time. But the thing is we have to learn how to establish those connections, and we have to learn to be educated on what to do, what to say, and how to help. I'm thankful to be a part of this team that provides that information, that provides that education, allows that understanding of how to connect with individuals, because what we're doing is we're not only catching them on the front end, but we're catching them allowing purpose, a place, acceptance through their recovery process. It's a beautiful thing. So what can a congregation do? Regardless of the faith, congregations can make a drastic impact on the world if we just understood that we could really make an impact. So what we see, if we go to the next slide, What we'll see if we go to the next slide. Now that we're here at the next slide, you can see some statistics on your screen. And with these statistics, what we're able to see is that in 2018, there were 1,818 individuals died by overdose. There were over 1,100 individuals who died by suicide. 1,090 babies were born with opioid dependence. So what can we as a faith community, what can we as a community do in order to be able to reduce these numbers drastically? We can learn. We can understand. We can be that community that allows a safe place for somebody to say, I need help. It's just 3 words that need to be spoken, but that environment has to be created. So what can we do? The next slide will show us a little bit of what exactly it is that we can do. On this next slide, what it's talking about is partnering with the faith community is extremely important in creating this paradigm shift, is because what we understand in these 11,500 to 12,000 congregations and institutions of faith across the state of Tennessee, that includes 3.5 million people of faith within the state. That's over half the people of the state of Tennessee. So if we are to take those numbers right there, the individuals of faith in the state of Tennessee, and take them and put them alongside the lines of those who have lost their lives to suicide, those who have died by overdose, what we can see is there are roughly 2,500 people of faith per every 1 individual who died by suicide or died of overdose. What can we do? We can become active. We can create that safe place for someone to say, I need help. Now, of course, we can't make them say that, but we can create the environment for those words to be said. 2,500 chances to reach out and to make a difference. This is a huge thing. To be able to allow individuals of faith to be able to see how to talk to someone who is hurting. After all, don't we all hurt? You know, you may not be able to relate to me on my level of pain that I've experienced in my life, or some of the others, not only on this call, but who may be watching. You may not be able to relate to our level of pain, but you can relate to pain. And you know that you don't want to feel it. Well, many of us, what we found is that the best coping mechanism that we could find was alcohol, was heroin. And you may say, no, there's many better coping mechanisms than that. Yes, there are. But at that point in time, whenever I was 11 years old and was introduced to alcohol, that became my way out of the pain that I was in, even at 11 years old. There was no better coping mechanism for me that I knew of. So that's what I turned to. You see, trauma is usually what begins this cycle, this process. And so we can understand how to reach people from that perspective. They're hurting. We don't want to hurt. We just want to find a way to feel better. The peace that I've been searching for my whole life, through temporary fashion, temporary ways, I was able to find in a permanent way through the faith community. That I'd always been searching for my whole life was there the whole time. I just didn't know how to connect with it. As we get into the next slide, one of the things that we can see as we go into the next slide is the way that we kind of our goals as the Office of Faith-Based Initiatives, and the way that we're to connect to other individuals. Our initiative is really to connect individuals struggling with alcohol or with addiction to treatment. And then to be able to allow people to understand the difference between treatment and recovery. See, treatment is where you go in order to be able to find recovery. Recovery is the maintaining of recovery. of that lifestyle. Sometimes it's difficult to make that transition from one lifestyle to another, but it is possible. You see, I used from the time that I was 11 years old to the time that I was 30. I dropped out of high school whenever I was 17 years old. I quit going to church. And it wasn't until I was 30 that I was reintroduced into the faith community and allowed to be understand that there is a power that is greater than myself that can restore me to sanity. Being able to find that community that accepted me, that allowed me to belong, essentially allowed me to believe and to become. Sorry, Will, if I stole that from you. Actually, I did steal that from you, but it's really good. We want to increase knowledge about addiction to allow people to understand how it works, where it comes from. Instead of just seeing that individual who struggles with substance use disorder as one of those people, to be able to see them really no different from me, because we all struggle. We all have coping mechanisms, and a lot of times they're negative. We try to help other individuals understand the continuum of care and to collaborate with it, for the faith community to actually become a part of that continuum of care, to be a huge part in it, to allow individuals the opportunity to be accepted. You know, one of the things that I'll talk about here in the next few minutes is also being able to understand a little bit more about the best practice model. And the faith-based initiative, one of the things that we try to do, one of the goals is to allow groups to understand and implement the best practice model, to promote and continuously improve the effectiveness of the faith-based initiative and how it connects to the community with recovery and support services. So how do we do that? You know, the state of Tennessee is a big place. It's got all the counties all across the state, and I don't think that we'll ever have enough people to reach everybody who is out there. But we can put that information, we can get the information out, and we can do what we can to reach anybody who's looking for help, assistance, education, to be that connection between the faith community and the mental and behavioral health community. Next slide, please. Here you see the state of Tennessee. You see within the state, we have 3 faith-based community coordinators. My area is there in the middle. I have 41 counties that I cover. We have Amy Bechtel in West Tennessee, Eric Landry in East Tennessee. And so you have our contact information here as well. And so if you need to reach out for us for any reason, if you would like to have more information on what it's like to be a certified recovery congregation, I'd love to talk to you. Amy in West Tennessee would love to talk to you. Eric in East Tennessee, we would love to be able to have that meeting, to sit down and to say, hey, how can we be of assistance to each other? Next slide, please. I think the other way. Yeah, there we go. And so what you can see right here is some of the results. In the state of Tennessee right now, and I think this number may be a little bit low, but it says on the screen that we have 746 certified recovery congregations. We've done educational forums in all 95 counties. We've increased awareness of recovery support resources statewide. And we definitely want you to know that we are a resource for you. If you don't know who Amy Bechtel is, she's the one in the picture down there on the left-hand side. Eric is in the middle, and myself there on the right side in that picture. Man, that's a good picture. I like that. Next slide, please. So what do we offer? We offer trainings. We offer education. We offer ways to empower, encourage congregations to be able to reach out. And one of the things that I like to say, you know, there's always congregations out there that are looking for a way to outreach. And this is one of the best ways to do it. Because I don't know, there's just something about people in recovery. Their prayers hit different. Their songs sound different. Their words, it's just more powerful, almost like it's more appreciated. Now, I don't want to say that about everybody. I don't want to say that if you haven't been through the life that you don't appreciate what you have. I know that you do. There's just something that hits a little bit different in recovery. We would love to allow you to have access to that energy, to allow them to become a part of the family. Another thing that we offer is a connection to recovery resources and other community supports. We offer opportunities to collaborate with other faith-based organizations and congregations. And that can look a lot of different ways. We may have one congregation over here that has a food pantry, another congregation over here who may have a clothing ministry, another congregation over here who can be able to provide transportation. And if we can get all of these congregations and organizations together, we can create a huge system that can impact so many individuals and get them where they need to go, to be a part of something that's greater than themselves. And we want to recognize certified recovery congregations to increase the impact of your ministries. So to put the word out across the state that this congregation is a recovery-friendly congregation. You know, I had a call this morning where I talked to an individual, and he said, it was one that I visited a couple of months ago, and he said, man, we want everybody in our county to know that we're recovery-friendly. We want everybody in the whole county to be able to understand that we're here to help. You see, that's a recovery-friendly congregation. That is a congregation who wants to be able to reach out and to provide a place to belong to individuals who feel like they belong nowhere. And I know what that feels like. I've been there. I've done that. I also know what it's like on the other side. I know what it's like to belong, to find my purpose and place, a purpose and place that is greater than myself. And it's beautiful to be a part of it. Next slide, please. So some of the education that we provide come through different trainings. We partner with, for this, especially the suicide prevention, suicide intervention trainings. If we can't provide them ourselves, a lot of times we'll partner with TSPN, Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network, in order to come in and help congregations understand what to say and what to do in the situation where someone may have thoughts of suicide. How can we help? What do we say? You know, a lot of times we don't want to ask that S question. We don't want to ask about suicide because we don't want to hear their answer because we don't know what to say. But through these trainings, it provides you a way to offer help. Not to be the help, but to offer help. You see, you don't have to be a counselor. You don't have to be a therapist. You don't have to have a degree to help someone, to provide hope to someone. We all have this within us. Just a lot of us don't have the understanding of how. And through these trainings, the suicide prevention training, what we offer is a QPR, question, persuade, refer training to congregations and faith communities to be able to understand how to provide hope in a moment to keep the individual safe for now. And that's usually between a 1 and 2 hour training that can be provided free of charge to anybody who wants it. The next slide is going to tell you a little bit about the ASSIST training. And the ASSIST training is applied suicide intervention skills training. So this is a suicide intervention. It is a two-day training, very intense training to allow you to know what to do in the situation. It helps you build a plan. Gives you the understanding of what to say, what to ask, to be able and willing to listen to the individual story. These are some of the things that we can provide. The next slide is talking about adverse childhood experiences. And so we have building strong brains trainings. We have trauma-informed care trainings to allow you to become a trauma-informed congregation, to be able to understand what's behind the substance use, what caused it. For the majority of people, it didn't just come out of nowhere. It comes from somewhere. So we have to be willing to be able to see the pain that may be behind it and to understand it. So the trauma-informed care is about a 4 to 5 hour training. The building strong brains is between a 1 to 4 hour training to allow you to understand early childhood brain and its development, to help build resilience within an individual. And what better place to build resilience than within the faith community, than within recovery programs, than within anything that can be able to provide a safe place for someone to learn and to grow. You see, that is resilience. On the next slide, we start talking about mental health first aid, which is some more training opportunities that we can provide through the faith-based initiative. There's the mental health first aid for adults, for youth, for public safety. Now, the youth mental health first aid training is for adults who work with youth. So this is great for youth ministries to be able to allow congregations to understand what to do, what to say, how to help. These are 8-hour trainings, each of them are, and many of us are certified in training through mental health first aid. Next slide, please. Then we have the addiction training opportunities with the Addicted Mind, sexual addiction and compulsion within the congregations, and even a 3-day support group facilitator training. Next slide, please. Looking at the best practice model, what we hope that congregations will do is be willing to provide spiritual or pastoral support according to your congregation's culture. To view addiction by its definition as a treatable disease, and to embrace and support people in recovery and walk with them on their journey. And then to disseminate recovery information that if you don't have, we can provide for you. And that you would host or refer individuals to recovery support groups. Next slide, please. I think for most congregations, we're doing all of that in some sort of way or another. But there's 2 ways to be recognized as a certified recovery congregation. The first one is that one of the coordinators will become aware of what you're providing and will want to recognize you for the work that you're putting in to help the recovery community. And the other one is to go down to this little QR code that's in the bottom of your screen with your camera on your phone. And whenever you put that on your phone through the camera app, it should bring up an icon, or it should bring up a link to the application to become a certified recovery congregation. If anybody is interested in that, please contact me or any of the other faith-based coordinators, Monty, or any of the Lifeliners as well. We would love to talk to you about becoming a certified recovery congregation. Next slide, please. Now I'm going to turn it over to my brother, Will Taylor, who's going to talk to you about Lifeline. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, Brother James. Me and James, we do a lot of presentations and just training opportunities together. And man, he's my lifesaver. You know, I told him one day, I said, this sounds kind of corny, James, but you're kind of like my yin to yang type. You know, I'm just kind of a ball of energy sometimes, and kind of people know that if it's on my mind, chances are I'm going to speak it. And if I don't verbally speak it, then my facial expressions will definitely speak it. So, you know, I'm blessed to serve with Brother James. I'm blessed to serve on a wonderful team. You know, our team is very compassionate about just recovery in general, because, you know, we all have been burnt by that fire. So the Lifeline Peer Project, Man, who is that handsome gentleman right there? Woo. Next slide. So the Lifeline Peer Project is Dr. Burks started out with is, you know, it got kicked off by Vision 7 years ago. And, you know, I want to take this opportunity first just to commend Commissioner Williams for believing in that vision. You know, a lot of times individuals that are in recovery, I know for myself and just working with others, that they reach recovery, they maybe are getting out of treatment or completing recovery court, and they're like, now what? What is there to do with my life? What am I going to do? Kind of having to get reestablished and kind of thinking that their past is always going to be there to haunt them. So, you know, I'm truly blessed to serve on this project with, like I said, this wonderful team, but then just to have the leadership of Commissioner Williams to believe in individuals in recovery and know that, hey, your past is not going to haunt you. So Lifeline was established to reduce the stigma that was related to the disease of addiction and increase that community support. We do that by policies and providing treatment and recovery services, recovery support. We had a couple different approaches with that. One of them is to establish evidence-based addiction and recovery programs. We're very keen and familiar with our 12-step fellowships. Also branching out into our faith-based recovery program, Celebrate Recovery, Recovery Through Christ. Smart Recovery is a great asset. And of course, our MARA and medicated assisted recovery programs as well, you know, helping them get established, helping the individuals that are returning from treatment or that are just on that journey of recovery to have that support inside the community. We also do that by educational forms as well, as Brother James mentioned, some of the trainings that we offer. You know, for individuals in recovery, we're faced with enough stressors already, but then having to return to a community that's not trauma informed, that doesn't really embrace the recovery community, is a whole different set, a whole different level of stressors for an individual. You know, we know that geographically it's different all across the state. Some of our rural areas kind of view it as still maybe a moral failing, and they're really even lacking on just recovery support in general, such as our 12-step fellowships or recovery congregations and things like that. So one of the tasks that me and my team do, or we try to go into those areas and just help create, help establish, even help sustain some recovery meetings and just some outlets for individuals of recovery. We also engage our civic groups because we know that we have to have some key stakeholders on board in some of our communities to kind of help welcome, to kind of go forward and be the front runners to say, when we try to start getting some programs established in certain areas. Our faith-based community has really stepped up and offered spaces for new recovery meetings and just support in general. I know Brother James touched on it. I say this all the time too. Addiction is not a spectator sport. Sooner or later, everyone gets to participate. You may not physically be using, but you may pick up the signs and symptoms. And I'm speaking to maybe the family members of, so we all are in recovery from something, and we all need some type of help. Whether that is a clothing closet, a food pantry, even resume building. And a lot of, like I said, these programs, these resources are offered through our faith-based community. Next slide, please. We also do that by promoting the Certified Peer Recovery Specialist program through the state of Tennessee. For those that aren't familiar with the Certified Peer Recovery Specialist program, it's a certification for individuals in recovery, active recovery for a minimum of 2 years from substance abuse and/or mental health. They can sign up to go through a 40-hour training that equips them with some basic knowledge and information, kind of introduction level to a lot of skill sets that are needed for them to help others. I also say it's kind of too, for the individuals that are just still early on in recovery, it's kind of a goal, a long-term goal to look for. You know, I was told personally early on that the first year was kind of given to me and I'm going to have to start working for that second year. But even at that point myself, I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. You know, I found, I shouldn't say I found, because I'm grateful for the judicial system. Unfortunately, at the time when I was introduced to recovery, Lincoln County at the time, my hometown, didn't have a recovery court. But with a lot of judicial intervention, the Judge Myrick, I want to give you a shout out, and I saw Mr. Tony on there as well. I know y'all are doing great work down there, but you know, the judge actually gave me an opportunity to find treatment. Now, that wasn't necessarily my goal at the time. I just thought that was a pretty clever idea to maybe avoid the circumstances that I was facing, right? So, but what happened is they had enough faith in me just to give me that opportunity. Now, I'm going to come back to this story, though, because it's very powerful and it's going to show you and hopefully paint the picture of the benefit of what Lifeline does. So just hold tight to that, and I will come back to that. I want to bounce back and talk about just our Certified Peer Recovery Specialist program, though, because individuals early on are sometimes just lost, as I mentioned, of what to do. So this certification gives us the skill sets and kind of our first set of credentials, and gives us maybe an introduction to working in the recovery field. I speak and work with a lot of individuals, and early on, everybody's on fire to help, you know, to be the light for others. And, you know, this is a great asset, and I'm truly, truly blessed for this program that the state is offering. I also want to mention the respect to Miss Elaine Abbott, because she was a wonderful front runner in getting certified peer recovery specialists, even induced in introduction to be staff members with a lot of recovery courts. I know that a lot of recovery court staff peers, and I think the book of Alcoholics Anonymous, in the doctor's opinion, describes that. You know, by saying, as the doctor speaks, that we know that we need this moral psychology, but the application was beyond our synthetic knowledge. So having individuals with that lived experience, somebody that can personally identify, has just been truly, truly beneficial in the peer work. Next slide, please. So we embrace peers, we encourage individuals and kind of help them get set up. Me and a couple of my other teammates, we help facilitate the Certified Peer Recovery Specialist training as well, and giving individuals some of that just motivation. But on the flip side of that too, we're also creating champions, not just in our faith-based communities, but also just in the communities we live in. You know, I talked about some of our rural areas maybe view addiction still as a moral disease. Maybe they view that we don't have an addiction problem here, things like that. Well, we have to get honest with ourselves, but not just that we have an addiction problem here, but we also have individuals that have recovered. Maybe they just don't feel like that the community is trauma informed enough to come forth with that. Maybe that they're afraid that the stigma is too heavy at in that level there. So we encourage individuals by the Certified Peer Recovery Specialist training to become champions in their communities and also in our recovery congregations. What's the benefit of that, you may say? Well, they have that firsthand experience. They also gain some general knowledge about the full continuum of treatment. You know, we know that there's never going to be enough treatment dollars to serve everyone. But we also have to understand too that not everyone needs to go to an inpatient treatment. Maybe they just need to get connected to a 12-step self-support group, or maybe they just need to get connected to some life skills, resume building. Maybe they just need that food pantry to kind of just get reset and back on track there. So our certified peer recovery specialists can help lead and guide this in our faith-based communities, but then also in our communities as general. Next slide, please. I apologize for that. Another way we connect with individuals is through our local resources, our prevention coalitions, formerly known as anti-drug coalitions, treatment and recovery courts. A lot of our teams, we all work closely with our treatment and recovery courts, our safe baby courts, veterans courts, and we're all grateful for those. Connection with addiction recovery programs, our ARP agencies there, our local health departments and health councils, even participating with our health educators. One of the highlights of my job is being able to talk to young adults and share my experience with them of, where I've been from, where I am today, but then also to try to motivate them to maybe if they are off track or going down the wrong path, they can pull themselves back. And I always have individuals coming back and saying, man, you really touched me with your story. Another certification that the state is offering is we have our young adults certification, and that's kind of a branch under the certified peer recovery specialist, just getting young adults involved and connected. Me and my team, we view that the opposite of addiction is that connection. And although it may have been that connection that initially got me started on the path of addiction, it's also that connection that brought me back out. Getting connected with law enforcement. We work closely with law enforcement, on a many different levels, breaking stigma, helping them understand the addicted mind, working and training with some compassion fatigue and burnout. But a lot of, another great aspect of our program is also working with them with CIT programs, crisis intervention training and things for law enforcement. Of course, we work closely with other nonprofit organizations. And last but not least, our colleges and universities with our collegiate recovery initiative there. My teammate, Brother Nathan Payne and James Harper and Lincoln Kaufman, they're doing great work with universities, helping them become recovery-friendly universities. Next slide, please. So we were blessed by our current administration to be able to expand the Lifeline project. Now we have 17 Lifeliners that are strategically placed out across the state. All of us are housed with prevention coalitions. And here are some of the numbers in our data. We found out that it might be wise to start collecting data. So about right at 3.5 years ago, we started collecting some data there. And we see that just a little over 6,000 recovery meetings started. The next number is something I kind of hold true to. We have right at 14,000 individuals connected to treatment and recovery support. The reason I hold close to that number there is because 99.9% of that number represents individuals that are coming from an uninsured population. Next slide, please. So this is kind of a map that shows the Lifeliners and has all our contact information and shows how we're strategically placed out. It also shows color coordinated for the counties that we cover. As Dr. Burks mentioned, me and Brother James are in the Middle Tennessee area, along with Kurt Johnson that covers there Davison County, and Alan Burnett that covers what is referred to as 5 South. I will make sure that a copy of this map gets handed out, because if you're not familiar with your Lifeliner that covers or represents your area, you definitely are missing out. I like to throw in somewhat of my sales pitch here. And what I mean by that is, one thing that our team holds strong to as well is we're kind of known for being the Google of resources. we go and try to personally vet all resources, including our recovery congregations, including, self-help groups, support groups, and things of that nature. And what's beneficial with our team is we're not tied to any one particular. We use everyone inside the state and sometimes even out of state. We have a constant little chat room that's going on. So if I may be working with an individual in my area, but I can't find placement, then I reach out to my teammates and put it out there to see what resources are available in their area. And sometimes it's just beneficial for an individual to get out of their so-called known area or territory and maybe go to treatment center or transitional housing or something of that nature in a different area of the state, just to kind of help. We know that geographical change is not a cure, but sometimes it does help as far as with those stressors. Next slide, please. So here's the connection piece to all this. Our faith-based community coordinators recruit and build relationships with congregations to help guide their members and communities to recovery. Project Lifeline connects people with treatment and recovery support resources and serves as a single point of contact for recovery congregations to seek and establish support meetings or help for others to find treatment. Another avenue that we have is our Tennessee Recovery Navigator projects. We work closely with our navigators and our faith-based community coordinators. The point with our recovery navigators are they strictly serve the emergency rooms and the emergency departments. And then last, we have our regional overdose prevention specialist, also known as ROPES. We do training of naloxone, Narcan, and prevention and overdose prevention, to help equip communities. Me and my sister Diane, we serve on that team as well and work closely into the high-risk areas. So we know that all of these are designed to meet people where they're at, but then also encourage individuals to find long-term recovery, whatever pathway that means for them. Now, I told you to hold that thought a while ago. I was talking about how I didn't have a recovery court, but the judge at the time offered me an opportunity to find treatment. Well, an individual that was in active addiction, still out there trying to figure out what exactly he wanted to do. I kind of knew that if I presented that option maybe to the judge, it was a 50-50 shot if he would go with it. But I also stated too that I was just trying to change my circumstances. Well, of course, he said, this is what I'll do. I'll give you a 2-week period. By 2 weeks, I want to know where you're going to treatment. He said, I'm going to take that a notch further. He says, I want to be contacted by the treatment facility. Well, of course, probably like any other individual that's in active addiction at that time, I waited till the last day of the 2nd week. And honestly, I kind of prepared myself just to call the judge and tell him that, I haven't found a place to go and this and that. Now, see, I'm the youngest of 4 with 3 older sisters. My mom is a pediatric nurse and been in the field for over 40 years. Now, I spent pretty much 25 years in active addiction. Now, my mom witnessing this. I also stated earlier that addiction is not a spectator sport and everybody gets to participate. Well, this is what that looks like. My mom, with her nursing background, still was eat up in the denial that her baby boy was in active addiction. Me coming home at all hours, me in and out of jail, me coming home with track marks on my arm, but yet playing it off. I remember one time telling her that I got stung by some kind of, I guess it was a killer hornet or something. I don't know what it was, but it put this whelp on my arm, but truly it was the abscess. But yet she believed that because, see, she had picked up the symptoms of addiction. And this happens so much to so many families and loved ones. But see, my mom finally started to get smart. She reached out to our local prevention coalition there in Lincoln County At the time, the director was Miss Kay Cooley, and kind of started getting information on addiction, started being educated on the signs and symptoms of someone in active addiction, learning the warning signs. But see, she also learned about my brother, Lifeline coordinator Alan Burnett. So here I am, the last day that I have to go into treatment, not knowing what to do. Well, my mom and my sister show up and they said, you can call this man right here. Now, not even knowing Alan from Adam and Eve, you know, I was like, well, what's he going to do? Well, my other option was go and call the judge, right? So I picked up the phone. I called Alan. He said, yeah. He said, matter of fact, he said, I've heard about you. I'm like, yeah. You know, at the time, I'm still full of junkie pride. And I said, well, let me know when I see you. I'll give you my autograph, you know. Long story short, though, by the connection of my mom through the Prevention Coalition, with the introduction of Alan serving as the Lifeline coordinator, I was able to find treatment with one day. So I entered into treatment, still with the mindset of trying to change my circumstances. But see, at the time, I also realized that I serve a God with a humor. So I went into that treatment facility, still with the mentality of changing my circumstances. But through that process, even almost being kicked out 3 days into it for sneaking a cell phone in, something happened through that process, you know. Now, I had some circumstances that the judge at the time wanted me to meet. So the long story short of that is I did about 38 days in treatment, and then I had to go back in front of the judge. Now, little did I know that my counselor had been communicating and sending progress notes and things of that nature. So after 38 days of treatment, I get transported back in front of the judge. And he says, this is an offer I have to make for you. I was facing 7 felonies at the time, and he says, we will drop these down. You'll plead guilty to a misdemeanor theft with one contingent that you go back into treatment for 6 months. Well, you know, I'm not the smartest tool or the sharpest tool in the shed, and I'd kind of started clearing my mind up in that 38 days of treatment. So I'm like, sure, let's run this. Where do we sign, you know? And I go back into treatment for that 6 months. But see, a lot of different things were happening in that process as well. Not only was my mind clearing up, I started developing faith again. I started finding my true identity again. And little did know that someday I would be working for that treatment center, but much less I would be working alongside my brother who helped me connect to treatment. See, that's the power of Lifeline. That's the power of our faith-based initiative. That's the power of connection. And everyone needs that connection. Next slide, please. So we also have a lot of fun. This was last year's Overdose Awareness Day, August 31st. And we had just finished up an event actually in DeKalb County for overdose awareness. And that's me and Brother James and our hybrid lifeliner there, Kobe Lane. And we created a video to help promote recovery. See, we go maybe against the grain because that's what we've been doing our whole life. We maybe go against our traditions of 12-step fellowship because we choose to break our own anonymity. See, I wasn't anonymous out there in active addiction. So why do I want to be anonymous today of living a life of recovery, but most important, living a life of freedom? I thank you for your opportunity just to speak with you all today. I hope we haven't bored you. I hope we can be a resource to you all. If we're not already, I'll be sure to, like I said, put our contact information out there. And I appreciate the opportunity, Miss Rebecca and Miss Marie. Thank you.
So real quick, we've got about a minute left. We wanted to say thank you to everybody. We have officially ran out of time. I want to say thanks to Jamie and Will for taking time out of your day and presenting about the stuff that you guys talked about and kind of giving the whole state an idea of what the Office of Faith-Based Initiatives does. We want to leave with this. We are open and willing and ready to partner with anybody that's on this, that is on here. We're not only relegated to just the faith community to train. We train all communities. We partner with all communities, but the faith community is our niche. So if you want to work with your faith community and help empower them to do more work with the recovery court system, and that sector of your community needs a training, please reach out to us. The link is in the chat section to the Office of Faith-Based Initiatives. It will connect you to Lifeline faith-based coordinators and all of their information. And I will send the PowerPoint out to Marie Crossan so she can send it out to everybody in this chat. And with that, I think that's all we've got. Thank you all. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you.